The roar of a fighter jet slicing across the northern Canadian sky represented power, progress, and technological evolution. It was more than just machinery, it was identity. A statement that Canada was not merely a vast nation of forests, tundra, and ice, but a country capable of defending its skies with pride and precision. It was the sound of a nation stepping boldly into the future of air defense, a future built on innovation, alliances, and sovereignty. But as time passed, that same sound began to tell a different story. A story not of confidence, but of dependency. The deal that promised power. When Canada finally announced the signing of a $19 billion defense contract to replace its aging CF-18 Hornets, it wasn't just another military upgrade. It was a moment the world had been quietly waiting for. For more than 40 years, the CF-18s had guarded Canadian airspace. They had patrolled the vast icy Arctic Circle, responded to air defense alerts along the northern frontier, and stood beside NATO allies in international missions. These fighter jets had become more than machines. They were symbols of duty, reliability, and national resolve. But time leaves its mark on even the strongest steel. The CF-18s had grown old, their airframes tired, their avionics outdated. Modern threats now demanded aircraft that could think faster, fly quieter, and survive in radar-dense environments that older jets were never designed to face. Canada knew that simply maintaining its legacy fleet was no longer enough. The world had changed, and so had warfare. The need for a replacement wasn't just important, it was urgent, pressing, unavoidable. So Canada looked toward the future, and the future had an aim: the F-35 Lightning II. Designed by Lockheed Martin, the F-35 was not just a fighter jet, it was a technological ecosystem. A fifth-generation stealth aircraft capable of slipping past enemy radar like a whisper, linking data across entire battlefields, and striking with precision long before the enemy even knew it was there. This was the jet of tomorrow, and Canada wanted its skies protected by nothing less. A jet capable of operating invisibly on radar. The F-35 wasn't just another fighter jet added to a fleet. It was marketed as a thinking aircraft, a machine that didn't just fly, but communicated, analyzed, and coordinated warfare in real time. It could link instantly with allied fighter jets, drones, satellites, and ground command centers, creating a shared battlefield picture that no enemy could hide from. It could collect and fuse intelligence faster than human operators could react, interpreting threats, identifying targets, and suggesting strike solutions autonomously. And when attacked, it did so with surgical precision, hitting high-value targets before radar even detected its presence. This wasn't merely an upgrade in tools. It was meant to be a revolution in air power, a transformation that would allow Canada to white heavy checkmark strengthen its partnership with the United States, its closest defense ally, reinforce NATO interoperability, ensuring all forces spoke the same digital language, modernize its air defense network, keeping pace with evolving global threats, protect the Arctic, a region rapidly becoming a geopolitical battleground due to melting ice routes and new military activity. On paper, it was a flawless blueprint, a masterstroke, a well-calculated step into the future. But the battlefield of strategy is not written on paper. It is shaped by control, sovereignty, and hidden costs. And soon, Canada would discover that the F-35's greatest power came with a price that wasn't measured in dollars alone. Because reality, especially in global defense, is never as simple as the glossy presentations, political speeches, or promotional promises make it seem. What looked like advancement was about to reveal a trade-off far deeper than anyone expected. The hidden system behind the jet. To the ordinary eye, the F-35 looks like a sleek piece of cutting-edge engineering, a fighter jet built for speed, stealth, and precision. But defense analysts and military strategists know something deeper. The F-35 is not a machine in the traditional sense. It is software first, hardware second. a flying supercomputer plugged directly into a global surveillance and combat network. Every F-35 in the world, whether it flies under the Canadian, American, British, or Italian flag, is part of one shared digital ecosystem. And the command center of that ecosystem sits inside the United States. The aircraft's encrypted software, mission systems, and diagnostic controls are all managed through Right Arrow U.S. Defense Network Command, Right Arrow Locked Software Architectures, Right Arrow Mission Authorization Servers, oversight by the Pentagon. This means one thing. Whenever a Canadian F-35 lifts into the air, it isn't flying alone. It is constantly transmitting data, not just basic information, but deep operational intelligence, including flight patterns, mission routes, engine performance, sensor feedback, threat detection logs, targeting calculations, and every bit of it flows into American-controlled data servers. This is where the debate over sovereignty begins. Canada may physically own the jet. Its flag may be painted proudly on the fuselage. Its pilots may sit in the cockpit. But the brain of the aircraft, the decision-making core, does not belong to Canada. Canada can fly the F-35, but it cannot fully command it without U.S. permission. And in modern warfare, control of data is control of power. But Canada cannot modify its core software, maintain key systems without U.S. approval, operate independently in certain emergency scenarios, integrate custom weapons without permission. The jet may carry Canadian markings, but its brain belongs to someone else. And in the age of digital warfare, data equals sovereignty, control equals power. Enter Sweden, the unexpected challenger. While the U.S. offered power through integration, Sweden offered something different: independence. The Saab Gripen E was designed for small nations that needed to defend themselves without relying on foreign command systems. It is cheaper to fly, easier to maintain, built for harsh environments, operable from normal roads, not just major air bases, maintained by small ground crews, not massive support teams. But the most critical difference? Sweden offered Canada full control, technology transfer, right to modify and upgrade software, local manufacturing and maintenance, independent operational freedom. This was not a purchase offer. This was an invitation to rebuild Canada's aerospace identity, something Canada once had when it designed one of the greatest fighter jets in history, the Avro Arrow, a plane so advanced the U.S. pressured Canada to cancel it. History repeating itself. The politics behind the choice. Inside NATO, the U.S. strongly promotes a concept called interoperability. If we all fly the same jets, we fight as one unit. It sounds strategic, but it also ensures dependence. Choosing the Gripen would have meant stepping outside the U.S.-controlled defense system. It would have meant autonomy, and autonomy can be seen as disobedience. So under political pressure, Canada selected the F-35, not because it was the best jet for Canadian conditions, but because it was the best jet for U.S.-led coordination. This decision wasn't about performance. It was about alignment. The costs begin to climb. That original $19 billion? It didn't last long. Soon, acquisition costs rose above $33 billion. Long-term operational costs exceeded $70 billion. Maintenance expenses skyrocketed. Required infrastructure upgrades became enormous. Why? Because the F-35 is a delicate aircraft. It requires climate-controlled hangars, specialized fuel handling, highly trained maintenance crews, costly spare parts, software licensing fees. Meanwhile, Sweden lands the Gripen E on frozen highways in the middle of winter, refuels it with minimal gear, and launches it again in minutes. The Gripen was built for the cold. The F-35 was built for well-resourced bases, not the Canadian Arctic. Canada had not purchased capability. Canada had purchased dependency. The irony: Canada is not a nation lacking talent. Canadian engineers helped create Sweden's surveillance aircraft, radar systems, electronic warfare suites, Canada helps Sweden maintain its defense independence while surrendering its own. And now, with Sweden joining NATO, the northern defense landscape is shifting again. Quietly, strategically, Sweden is rising in importance. Canada is becoming more dependent. The real lesson: the F-35 gives Canada benefit, meaning advanced stealth, invisible engagement, NATO integration, shared global defense, cutting-edge sensors, real-time digital battlefield awareness. But it also brings cost, meaning software control limitations, no independent upgrades, foreign authorization, dependency, operational restrictions, high maintenance burden, reduced Arctic practicality. Meanwhile, the Gripen represents something deeper: sovereignty, control, identity. Because power means nothing if you do not control the thing that gives you power. A possible future. Military analysts now speculate Canada may adopt a dual fleet strategy: F-35s for NATO and international operations, Gripen for Arctic patrols and sovereign defense. This would restore balance between alliance obligations and national independence, because the battlefield of the future will not be fought only with missiles and wings. It will be fought with software, networks, encryption, data pipelines. Those who control the code control the war. Canada's fighter jet deal was not a mistake. It was a trade-off between power and autonomy, technology and independence, alliance and sovereignty. Sweden did not win the contract, but it won something far more valuable: proof that real strength is the ability to stand on your own terms. The Gripen does not just defend airspace, it defends a principle: freedom cannot be purchased. It must be built, protected, owned. Because, in the end, power without control is just noise. Control is sovereignty, and sovereignty is the real strength.